just warning me that it's being live streamed.
Yep, we are live streamed.
Hope you got your finger on the censor button. This is new to me too, the YouTube live stream. I didn't know it integrated with Zoom. Is it hot over there today, Kevin?
Not bad. It's actually pretty cool. I'll look it up. I don't think my connection's very good, so sorry about that.
Actually, the video looks good. Last time it was a little pixelated, but this time it looks pretty good. So I was going to head over to Los Olivos later today to Frank's place.
Nice. Yeah, it's 69 degrees here.
No. What?
69.
You're kidding, right?
I'm not kidding.
Huh.
69.4.
In the 80s.
There we go. All right, here we go. We're live.
Howdy, Ron.
How you guys doing today? You know,
Excellent.
I'm here with Tank and Kevin of Temple of Switches. And
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys hope you guys in a cool building.
Not too bad.
So, you know, I'm very glad that you guys were able to come on and join me here and to talk about your music, especially, you know, your latest release, 4. You know, when I first saw that cover, I was like going, it almost looks like a death metal band.
Right.
That's funny.
You know?
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was like going, okay, you know, because I seen your name on Facebook a lot, and then of course, you know, talked with Tank, you know, and different private Zoom calls, and I was like going, okay, this is pretty interesting, this cover. And then when I heard it, I was like going, okay, it's so different. And like I was telling Tank off on Messenger that you guys don't sound like anyone really currently, because everybody seems to be trying to sound like everybody from the past, you know, but with, you know, with modern productions and whatnot, you know, but it's like you guys just have a very unique sound. And
thank you. I'm glad of that.
What's going on? Okay, yeah, it's for some reason out there they're only seeing me when I talk and you guys when you talk on YouTube. Don't know why it's doing that. But you know, people can hang in out there, you know.
There's a view thing in the upper right corner. I know that it will like select who's ever talking automatically. I wonder if that's.
Yeah, I think it's something in the settings on YouTube, you know. But you know, it's still going through.
Well, I'll be quiet then and let you talk.
Well,
and I'll talk for a minute. Maybe it'll switch to me. I don't know. I'll give it a try here.
Yeah, so everybody out there in YouTube land, you know, yeah, I know. That's good. As long as we talk about the music, that's all that really matters.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, so tell me about your band, you know, for people that aren't familiar with it or never heard of you guys before, you know. So
well, Kevin, you want to address that?
Yeah.
Well, I remember when I joined, Tank and the drummer Jay were getting together doing some stuff, Tank had asked me to put some synthesizers on a song that he had done quite a while back. And I think it took me a long time to respond to that, but eventually we got together and started collaborating. He had some good stuff from, 30 years ago. And I couldn't help but interject my thoughts, my musical ideas into it. And he was receptive, and we just started collaborating then. So eventually we moved out of the storage unit studio, which was actually pretty cool in the storage unit, but into my house studio, and started just going full bore, writing some songs, redoing older songs, and then did our first CD back. When was that, Tank? About
2014. We wrapped it up in 2014.
Yeah. So it was really an honor to be able to join in, and to do my own creative thing and add, like, one song I added words and melody line to an instrumental, and it ended up being pretty cool. So I love doing that sort of thing. I really like writing and playing.
Yeah, that was the Vortex. The Vortex was always an instrumental piece that we played. And one day Kevin came in the studio and he said, "Look, you're going to be mad, but I recorded some vocal parts for this song. You're probably going to think they're corny and not like them." And he played it for us, and we absolutely loved it. It was great, and it took the song to a whole different level. It's actually been one of our more popular songs, so that worked out really great. It was funny though, the storage unit that we played in had no windows and just a pull-up door, and no bathroom available. So once you pulled that door down, it got so hot so fast in that place. It was like suffocating.
Yeah, but we had a fire extinguisher.
We did?
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't remember the fire extinguisher.
It's the first thing you pointed out to me. You said, "Oh, here's the studio, here's the fire extinguisher." So I have the same thing in my studio. There's one right by the door, just in case.
Now, once we moved to Kevin's studio, which is kind of in the attic of his house. It's a really cool house that he lives in. Really neat place. But man, it gets so hot in the town where he lives in. And running all the equipment and the air conditioner at the same time, we'd like have to turn off certain things so we could run the AC. And when we started playing, we'd have to turn off the AC. But we had a lot of fun in his studio. That was like a 2-year period of time, from 2012 when we started until 2014, which was our last gig, is that band. And after that, it kind of dissolved, and Temple of Switches became a studio project. So at this point now, there's probably been like 12 people that have worked with Temple of Switches, various drummers and singers, and it's a studio project at this point.
Right. Will you ever go do a live gig down the line, or you want to keep it studio?
We have done a couple of live gigs, and what I liked about what we did is we had like a show worked out that we would start. We did basically the same show each time, and the lights and smoke and all the effects were synchronized to it. And I don't think it went along with the original CD order, but it was still really cool to kind of have an actual show. So that I like that, and maybe someday we'll be able to do it again.
That was part of the reason for the name Temple of Switches, because the whole thing was so freaking complicated. We ran the light show with my effects board, because my effects board, you could assign MIDI outputs to each of the buttons on the board. So when you selected a certain effect or a certain series of effects, you could also send a MIDI note. And we had a converter that would convert the MIDI notes into DMX signals, and that would trigger different scenes. So Kevin and I had this whole thing worked out with all these complicated scenes, and it would actually turn on and off the smoke machine and change the lights. And it was so complicated. And Kevin had 7 keyboards, and they all went through a mixer, and then all that went into the PA mixer, and there were wires all over the place, and it just kept getting more and more complicated. So it was kind of that contributed to the name Temple of Switches.
Yeah, this studio here, the ceiling are at an angle, almost 45-degree angle, and it's staggered. So when you first walk in the studio, it's pretty open, and then it gets a little smaller. It looks kind of like a temple. So we always kind of joked around, this is our temple. And one day during rehearsal, we got frustrated at all the complicatedness and the switches. And I think Tank said, this is like a damn temple of switches. So the name stuck.
Right now, Kevin's sitting under the area where we used to have the drum set. Like he said, it was like a 45-degree, like shaped like a tent almost. And we lined the underside of it with moving blankets and recorded the drums in there at that time for the first CD. And the sound is so dead when you're underneath there, just the way the reflections work. It's like a completely dead acoustic atmosphere there, which helped with the recording part.
Well, nowadays you can record basically anywhere, that you have a good acoustics. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. You don't have to go to a big studio anymore, which I think that's great for bands that don't have big budgets.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you still need to go to the studios if you want really good microphones. I mean, at least people like us, we're a really small grassroots band. Funny, I was watching some of your other interviews, Ron, and these guys are talking about, oh yeah, when we were in Europe and this and that, and this studio and that studio. We don't have any stories like that.
Right. Yeah, but you got stories of how you recorded each of the albums and stuff like that. I think every band or project has something interesting that happened to them. It's like, especially during the pandemic. A lot of people. I noticed there was two camps of musicians. There was the musicians that basically put everything aside and just rode out the pandemic, and there's others that just went head on and just record. I'm amazed more bands haven't put out more double and maybe even triple albums because of being in the studio.
I saw your interview with Simon Godfrey, and he predicted that by 2023 there was going to be an avalanche of things being released, and I think he's right about that. For me personally, I've kind of driven the whole Temple of Switches thing, at least in these later years. The pandemic I had my head buried in here the whole time during the pandemic. I was working like 12, 14-hour days sometimes. Actually, I started having health problems because I was pushing myself so hard.
Right.
And during the pandemic, for me, I do computer service, and I was still just as busy. It was a little different, but I was still working every day, my regular shifts and going everywhere. And really nothing changed in our lives, except we couldn't sit down in a restaurant. I had to take food out or something. Everything else was basically the same for us.
My wife and I are antisocial, so it really didn't affect us that much staying home.
Right.
And I enjoy working in the yard, so that consumed a lot of my time. But at the onset of it, I found it really depressing. It was, it came in waves. You have these hiking trails around us where you can go off in the woods and hike for miles. And every day we used to see this old lady. She had to be in her 80s. And she'd have her walking sticks and a big smile on her face. And she'd be walking up hills, and we'd pass her and say hi to her and talk to her. Super nice lady. And after the pandemic hit, we were wearing masks. And we're up there and we ran into her, and she had her mask on, and it hit me right then, the severity of the whole thing and how vulnerable she was. And you couldn't look and see her smile anymore. And it was right then that the whole thing really came down on me like an avalanche. Right.
I know it's just like you. antisocial, you know, basically stayed at home almost all the time before the pandemic. So it wasn't that difficult, but hearing everyone else, you know, how their lives just came to a big halt, you know, after a while, hearing all these different stories, you know, it's like, you know, it did kind of get a little depressing on that, you know, having to wear a mask everywhere you went. I mean, it didn't bother me, the mask wearing. I just thought, okay, it's just part of the whole thing that we got to go through. And just like everyone else, we thought it was going to be a temporary, you know, maybe a month, you know, something like that, you know. And it, you know, in a way, it's still ongoing because there's some places that are still requiring you to wear masks. Other places aren't, you know. And I, you know, if I have to go to anywhere that's indoors, I wear a mask. I mean, I don't, I mean, I think my trust issues went down during the pandemic, where it's like, I don't really trust anybody out there, you know. And, but I got to say, a lot of music is, you know, I think, like you said, Simon's predicted 2023, but, you know, we've been getting a lot of stuff, and there's been a few musicians that took in new, I guess, not so much talent, but new skill set, like going behind the scenes on producing and mixing and even mastering, because, you know, they got the time now. It's like they can't go touring, so it's like, what else am I going to do? I'm going to learn to do everything myself, you know.
Yeah, I sort of did that. The Wings of Mind, I ended up mastering myself, and I found that almost as difficult as the whole recording and mixing process. Mastering is truly an art. On 4, I had Paul DeGray master it, and Paul's worked with Bruce Springsteen and Joe Walsh, Kenny Loggins, and Jim Messina, Los Lobos, The Offspring, Weezer, and it was so nice to, you know, just let that out of my hands. And as an aside, 4 was mixed kind of as a drum album. I really wanted the drums up front and to leave the dynamics intact, because the drummer, David White, is such a great drummer. It was really cool because Paul, when he mastered it, he left all the dynamics intact. And the downside of it is that it seems to wreak havoc on the compressors at the radio stations. But I still don't regret that at all, because it sounds really good on a stereo system. If you listen to, you know, a high resolution file or the CD, the drums really pop.
Oh yeah, and I've been listening to the downloads that you sent me, but I also found you guys on Amazon Music. So when I was listening to it on the, you know, through the TV speakers and then through my my headphones, and it's like it sounded great. I mean I think that's like, you know, I think where a lot of people are going to slowly start listening to their music is through, you know, that. But you need physical media. I mean, I can't be without it. You know, it's like I can't get everything out there. You know, there's just so much, and so it's like, you know, I slowly get everything. You know, fill in discographies and whatnot, and I gotten a lot of recommendations over the past 2 years of bands that normally I probably wouldn't have gotten into, you know, but it's like why not, you know, try something new, and you know, because you know, people say that there's not a lot of stuff, new things out there, but I don't think they're really looking.
Yeah, that's true. There's a ton of new stuff out there. It's almost overwhelming how much new stuff is out there.
I saw somewhere that someone said that the amount of progressive rock albums that are coming out now almost superseded the amount that were coming out in the 70s. So it's like,
I believe that. It's just grown exponentially.
yeah, because you got a lot of these, like you said, homegrown bands that are popping up everywhere. Someone who's a musician basically, and then goes that, well, I could make some good music, and they find like-minded people and create a little band and
People move around too. Bands grow like family trees. They branch off and multiply. That's why I like jazz so much. I actually don't listen to much progressive rock. I mostly listen to jazz. I'm not going to make any friends here, but
that's okay.
And I don't consume much music either. If I hear an artist that I really like, I either love it or it's neutral for me. If I love it, I definitely buy the physical media.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't buy anything I didn't like. If I didn't like it, if someone told me a band to check out, I look for it online to just hear to see if the recommendation is solid, and if it is, then I'll go and buy their albums. I'm somewhat of a completist on some things. There's some bands where if they just, completely, give up their mission that they started out with, and just, to be easier to make pop songs and stuff like that, just or to dumb down their sound, to be more accessible to more audiences. That's usually where I stop on some discographies.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kevin listens to a lot of vinyl. I know that.
Yeah, I love spinning records. I still have a lot of my older, or the ones from when I was in high school. And one of my favorite records, it's such a great album, and I really don't know if anyone's really ever heard of this guy. His name is David Werner. And it did a great record. I think it was 1979, but I used to like to find things that were either cheap because I didn't have any money, or they were just different. The other band was called Trillion, which was pretty cool. And then the Sinceros. And it just reminds me of finding music that is a part of my life because I've heard it for so long, but I never hear it anywhere. And no one seems to have ever heard of them. So it's kind of fun to branch out that way. Of course, I like mainstream stuff as well.
Oh yeah, I got wide range of stuff that I listen to, and I just like to hear interesting music.
Yeah.
Regardless really of the genre. It's like if it has an interesting backstory, or if the way it's produced or the way it's arranged, those are the things that they get me. And also if there's a song or an album that they do that, either touches you personally, or, it's like it takes you back to a certain moment in time, things like that, that's something that I and then one of the big things with progressive rock that I like is the adventure. The band takes you on an adventure, whether it's lyrically or musically. It's like you go, you start off at the beginning, and then you go on this journey with them musically, and if they got like a concept, like a concept album, you got that added to it, and it's like, and by the time you get done, it's like, you kind of went through like a story. Even if it's like an instrumental, you can do that. It's just the way, the musicians are playing their instrument and phrasing certain thing. So, and I
That,
do
that was
kind of,
really that was the MO with Temple of Switches 4, is to really try to make something interesting and not mainstream. The only thing is, I ended up falling in this place where the Rio people don't like it because it's not complicated enough, and the mainstream people don't like it because it's too weird for them. So it's kind of right in the middle, in this odd place where it's, I don't know, it's kind of in limbo, so to speak.
the thing is this, is if you do the music that you like to do, and it's great when some people can appreciate it, and it's like, I wouldn't, it's like, I wouldn't want a band to really cater to me. I want them, because then, then you're not going to feel it. If you're going to just make music, like every album's going to be like this grandiose symphonic thing, and you're not feeling it, and you're just kind of like going through the motions, and not, it's like it's you guys gotta feel it first, and if it's if it feels natural, and this is what when you guys set up to create the songs, and you go, okay, yeah, this is going to be a little weird, it's not going to be what we did before, but it's kind of cool. It's like, just make the music, and the audience will find it.
Yeah,
One
you,
thing
you
I
can just hope.
One thing I'd like to say about the collaboration that Tank and I have done is I do things that I hear in my head generally. I'll hear it, and then I try to bring it out. Sometimes I'll just discover something on the keyboard which I hadn't heard in my head, but the stuff that I hear in my head seems so mainstream, and if it was all just my music, it seems like it would be super just vanilla and generic. So Tank comes along and puts his twist on things, and so it just makes it so much more interesting to me. And I always like to use this term, it's like chocolate and peanut butter. They're fine alone, but man, you put them together and it's so good. And that's what I always say about our collaborations, just like chocolate and peanut butter, really kind of unique, and nothing that either one of us would really come up with on our own, but together, come up with some pretty cool stuff, I thought.
Yeah, that's true. We've had some magic collaborations. Kevin knows I like jazz, so there's been a couple instances, a couple songs where he's written a really nice jazz piano piece, and he just like gives it to me. It's I know this is what you like, but take this. This is yours. I don't want to be involved. Do whatever you want with it. And I always come back around and rope him into being involved in the song. One for All from the Wings of Mind is a great example of that. He wrote this, it was right around Christmas, I think, of 2019. He wrote this beautiful piece. It kind of reminds me of a Vince Guaraldi composition. It was short, but it was really nice. And I ended up taking that and building on it. And it happened to be right when the pandemic hit, when I was kind of wrapping up the musical part of it. And I was really depressed about the whole pandemic thing. So, and not only the pandemic, but the whole state of mankind. It seemed like everybody was fighting and arguing and pissed off. And I ended up writing the lyrics for One for All, and took it over to Kevin's house. And again, it was the onset of the pandemic, and both of us were just like staring at the floor, going, how long is this going to last? What's it? And we were actually weeping when we recorded that song. It was a really heavy song for us, and the lyrics are really heavy. And actually, both of us contributed to the lyrics on that particular song.
Yeah, I was listening to that one last night, and I was like, I know there's going to be a lot of those type of songs that are going to come out more and more, because there's some of the bands have material that they've written previously, but I think you're going to get a lot of more deep, looking at mankind type of lyrics. It's like, because it just basically, it changed, you know, not only from the medical standpoint, but, you know, social standpoint, you know, and it's like, and you kind of, and some people, you kind of saw their true colors in a way, you
Yeah.
know, it's like, which is, you know, it's sad in itself.
Yeah, I
But
hate to be a pessimist, but it just seems like there's a huge darkness over humanity right now, and I hope it's temporary. But it's and the media seems to capitalize on it, like the news media.
Yeah.
It
oh yeah,
reminds me of when I was in school. I went to a small Catholic school back in Ohio, and at recess they'd split up the boys and the girls. The girls would go on one side of the parking lot, the boys would be on the other, and it was grades 1 through 6. And the little group of dudes I hung out with, there was one of them that was like a comedian guy, and he used to go up to the little kids, and he would say, "That guy over there said you're a dummy, and he can beat you up." And he would try to get these kids to get in fights,
right,
and we all thought it was funny at the time. Looking back on it now, it's not funny at all. And he was
right.
successful at it. And it just kind of reminds me of the news media now, and the way that they seem to almost try to agitate people.
Yeah, yeah. Especially the, you know, the ones that are giving their opinions, like we need more of those, you know. It's like there's
Yeah,
enough out there, and it's like they give their opinions, but the way they push those opinions onto their audience, they're trying to make them like they're facts, and it's like it's almost like people nowadays forgot what the meaning of opinion is. It's like it's just one person's, you know, thought. It's, you know, just because I think a certain way doesn't mean that you have to think that way, you know. Um,
One
and
thing
I,
about
I,
our collaborations is Tank tends to have the dark side. His lyrics and thinking is, you know, dark and kind of being, you
pessimistic.
know, the glass half empty and whatnot. And me, I've always been a naturally happy person. I don't have an agenda to write things that are quote positive, but I tend to it just kind of comes out. And I think my thought is, you know, I want to see the bright side of things and I want to offer some kind of hope. And so then it just naturally comes out. So together, when we put those two things together, I think I start to see life like it really is. You know, there's good and there's bad. And so, you know, instead of it just being one side of a coin, some of our songs, in fact, a few of them, they really have like both sides to the coin. I really like that because it's not just one thing. I know I don't want to be Mr. Positive, but I can't help it. So I like to just write or sing what I feel. And working with Tank just really helps it meld together really well.
it sounds like you've got a good yin and yang thing going.
I
Yeah,
think that's
we
a good
do.
way of putting it.
You know, it's like that. I mean, I get it. You know, nowadays, you know, there's like you said, Tank, that you know, there's a darkness over humanity right now that you know, you start seeing all the, I mean, idiots that are coming out of almost like cockroaches. You know how they come, you know, you turn on the light and they just start coming out from all the areas of the house, you know, and it's like, I just think, you know, before I used to be, I think maybe almost 100% positive. Now I think I'm like about 60% positive, you know, these days. And it's like, but whenever I start thinking the negative stuff, I try to look, I switch gears and I watch nature videos, you know.
Yeah, there you go. Good
You know,
idea. To work in the yard.
yeah, you know, it's like, you know, get back, you know, sometimes almost like get back to the basics of, you know, and it's like, you know, not, you know, we're not the only living creatures on this planet, you know. Just because we can speak and everything doesn't mean that, you know, there's nothing else. And it's like, so, you know, you gotta, that's really honestly, I tell my girlfriend whenever I'm feeling like, like I want to scream, and it's like I just go watch nature videos of little animals, and go, okay, calms
That's
me
a
down.
That's a good point. I found during the pandemic and the lockdowns that I was watching birds a lot more. We have a lot of birds in our yard, and I don't know, they were like a metaphor for freedom and watching their behavior and animals in general. I I just for some reason my heart was going out to nature more during that period, and I appreciated nature so much more because they're oblivious to this whole thing and they're carrying on like things are, like they always have. That's why they've survived all this time, besides what we're doing to destroy them.
Right, right. It's like, um, I mean, we don't in my area. We don't really have anything nature-wise happening, so I rely on YouTube. Watch. You know, there's a couple that they have a nice back. Their backyard is to a lake, and they have all these little, literally woodland creatures come to their backyard, and it's like I feel, so jealous of that. I would love to be able to just wake up in the morning, just go out to the porch and just watch nature. I think that's the best TV you can get.
Mhm.
Yeah, the other
Hey, Ron,
therapy.
I want to thank you for having me. And Tank, it was really good to see you. And I got to
Oh,
take off, but
Well,
I really
thanks for
appreciate
coming.
oh yeah, thanks.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was
thanks
really
for
great
having me.
seeing you guys.
Yeah, it's always fun. And if you could make it over tonight to Frank's Treehouse, stop by.
All right, cool.
All right,
Take care, you guys.
bye.
Take it easy.
For me, Ron, a lot of the therapy was writing lyrics too and making the music. That was a way of working out my angst during the whole lockdown thing.
Yeah, in some ways, I'm kind of envious of musicians that they be able to write their lyrics to get that out of them. It's almost like therapy in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm
And
always excited if somebody actually listens to the lyrics and tries to pull meaning out of them because like I said, I try to write metaphorically. So really the meaning is not right there on the surface, but there's always a really heavy personal meaning behind the lyrics.
right, and what's the good thing? I think what's a good thing is when you write that, it's like if you do it metaphorically, you know, person A, person B, person C are going to get something different out of it, and none of them are wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That's the beauty of it. I love that. But that I love John Anderson's lyric writing with Yes. It was. I don't think I ever figured out what a lot of those songs meant, but
Right.
they still meant something to me. I didn't know what they meant, but they just worked so beautifully, and they conjured up all these images. And I
Yeah.
almost didn't want to know what they meant. It almost didn't matter. I loved his writing with Yes. In
Yeah.
fact, I
Yeah.
tried to employ that on that song, The Unfurling, just writing disconnected lyrics that were basically just driven by the mood of the music at that time. There really is no meaning to the lyrics in that song, the few lyrics there are.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's like if you had a certain goal with that, with a certain, with a certain song, and then you speak with someone else that has heard it, and they hear something different out of it, and then you go, oh well, I never thought of that. It's like, so that's I think that's the beauty of music. If people actually are paying attention to it, they'll get something more out of it, and if they communicate it back to the artist, They may go back and listen to it and have a different, you know, almost like a different revelation of what the song was all about. You know, even though they wrote it, it's like, you know, that's what I love watching some of these reaction videos. I mean, the legitimate ones. I mean, that they're not just doing it to make money on YouTube, that they're just honestly, they're getting a legitimate reaction out of it. I love those because then songs that you heard like dozens of times, and all of a sudden this new person that's listening to it, and they're talking about it, and they say something, and it's like, well, I never thought of it that way, you know.
Yeah, the album cover on 4. I don't think anybody's really caught this yet, but there's a deep meaning to the album cover that I initially came up with. If you look at the back, you could see the skeleton that's walking away. You could see his face reflected in a CRT. It's
Yeah.
kind of a dig at big tech. The skeleton on the back is actually an X-ray of my skull.
Oh wow.
I was at the dentist and they did a scan of my head and they had it up on a widescreen TV, so I took a picture of it, but it's superimposed on the back cover. It's supposed to depict the skeleton that's walking away, looking at his CRT with concern. And I mean, you can read what the display is saying, but there's this huge meaning to the whole cover that I don't think anybody at least has mentioned to me yet that they've noticed it. But I've heard 5 different interpretations of the front cover since putting it out,
Well,
which is kind of cool. It's like you said, people interpret
well,
it.
you got the 4 skulls, you know, the 4 skeletons, you know, for 4, you know, and it's like,
right, the 3 are conforming, and the
Yeah.
4th is free, basically.
yeah, and it's like, I mean, that's great when you got album art that you can depict that to help when someone listens to the music. They can look at the album art and, you know, like I said earlier, go on that journey with the band or the artist. You know, that's why physical, you know, for me, physical media is important, because then when you know, I wasn't a big vinyl person. I just liked, I mean, always was into cassettes at the beginning, you know, in the early 80s, cassettes. And then when CDs came out, I was like, this is perfect, because I actually hated cassettes, you know, the constant rewinding, fast forwarding.
Getting a pencil out and taking up the slack when you're
dedicated. Yeah. So a CD was just perfect, you know, but I appreciate people that are into vinyl, you know, because it's almost like they're, I mean, not to sound corny, it's almost like a religion, you know, it's like religion.
I think people are nostalgic about vinyl more than anything. I guess a lot of younger people are into it now too, because it's trendy. But for me, it's the 12 by 12 artwork. You know, you can really appreciate the artwork, and you can read. I mean, my eyes are terrible. I have to put on reading glasses to read the back of CD.
Right.
With vinyl, you know, big, beautiful artwork, and you know, Hypnosis, the outfit that used to do all the albums back in the 70s. They always came up with these really cool concepts, and you know, it's artwork, and it's just as when you walked into a record store. The cover drove you to buy the record in many cases. It did me.
Yeah, you know, with me, I like the idea, and if I had the space to have vinyl, I would have some. I would get like maybe, you know, albums that have deep meaning to me, and just to be able to just like, you know, put on the headphones, you know, put that vinyl on, drop the needle, and close your eyes and just, you know, drift off, you know.
For 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
Over.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that I really don't like about the vinyl is the actual flipping over, but I think there's just something to it, especially if it doesn't break kind of a stream of consciousness in a way. It doesn't break that feeling, that you have to get up. Oh, I got to flip that over. I mean, I'm kind of amazed.
Remember the record players that you could stack records?
Oh, yeah.
Spindle. It would have like a 4-inch spindle with a little mechanism in it, and you could stack records on it, and it would drop them. When the record that was playing finished, the arm would go over. It would trigger a mechanism, drop the next record down, and it would start playing the next record. And if you look at a lot of albums that were made back in the 70s, the sides are staggered. It'll go side 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. That way, when you stacked them, you could play record number 1, and then side 2 would be ready to play on the spindle, and it would drop down, and you could play side 2, and then you'd flip them both over and do the same thing. I wonder how many people remember that.
Oh yeah, especially if you were one of the people that like to play the little 45s. You can just stack up. Basically have your own little jukebox in a way.
Yeah.
But it's like I think it's the experience of the vinyl that whether it's a nostalgic thing or if it's someone that's new into it. I think it's the overall experience. I mean, you do get a lot of these trendy people that for some reason they think they're trying to look cool, and they're really not. It's like they're really not, and it's like I do notice too, new bands, especially like you said, the homegrown bands. Some of them are doing vinyl on their albums, sometimes maybe a few years after the initial release because of cost.
I just purchased Octarine Sky's album, Close to Nearby, on vinyl. Definitely wanted to have that one.
Yeah, there's just some of them out there that you need to have on vinyl, because you get a great experience on CD, but you can get even a better experience on the vinyl.
Using my camera. I've got it Velcroed onto my laptop. Maybe I have to get the duct tape out.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do, right? But so what's in the future for Temple of Switches?
Well, I've already started writing new material, but it's going to be more jazz oriented than anything, less rock. On both The Wings of Mind and 4, there were some songs that I pulled out of the past that we never properly recorded that were more rock than anything, and I'm kind of getting away from that. I kind of held my breath and put them on the records because I thought they were strong songs back in the day, but my tastes have changed now. So veering more toward jazz, and I think the next release is still going to have adrenaline and a rock element to it, but there's going to be more off-kilter melodies and timing and things, a little more experimental, I guess you could say. And that's going to be down the road a ways, but the next thing immediately is going to be to make some videos for the songs that were on 4. So video production, that's probably the next step.
Yeah, I noticed that there is a lot of people that are doing, videos for their songs, even though we don't have an MTV anymore, people are being a little more, I think they have a little more freedom to be creative as to what's being, what they want to portray their songs to be, whether it's going to be a band playing the music, or if you're going to have some sort of concept.
Yeah, it's easy to make videos now. You
Oh
can
yeah, and
purchase stock footage. It's fun videotaping too. I mean, that's another art. It's just as rewarding as music. Videography.
oh yeah, especially now with the phones, you can do little movies with your phones, especially if you have an iPhone, you can do almost, I mean, I've seen commercials where they say you can make almost studio grade movies on your phone. And it's like, oh, great. So you're going to edge out the studios now.
Well, you're right. That's probably the next shoe to drop.
But you're going to get people that are just going to doodle with it, and make, videos that they think are cool, but then, that they're really not. But then if, you have the vision for your music, and you can put that up onto video. I mean, I have a friend of mine that for his last album, he did like an interesting, instead of like music videos, he did almost like in chapters, for, let's say if there were 6 songs, he did like 6 chapters for that, and did a little explanation in the front and just had him playing. But it's like, it was just kind of, and I think doing it in black and white gives even more of a nostalgic feel to it.
Yeah, and black and white is good, nice for a couple of reasons, because you focus less on the color and more on the content, I think, and you can get better contrast, so it has more impact. And also, if you're blending a bunch of different video clips from different sessions, it's easier to make it gel between different cameras types and things like that. I know I did that on the song The Vortex. We did a video collage of us playing the song, but all the clips are all staggered throughout the whole 4 years that we had the original band together. So there are clips from right at the beginning and then at the end. And, it's all synchronized with the music, but it's all different periods throughout the whole life of that version of the band. And it ended up coming out kind of cool.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And also too, with making videos, and people nowadays they like to have visuals to audio too, and like I said earlier, with bigger screen TVs, I mean, and you put a video out, and or people that have these these thousands of dollars invested in their sound system, it's going to sound, like a little movie theater.
Yeah, it can make for a moving experience when you synchronize a good song with a really good video that gives it impact.
Oh, I think that's fascinating, and I'm enjoying each of the albums. Now I forgot, are they? I know you got, obviously I have 4. Are the other ones, are they available on CD for people such as myself to buy?
The CDs are almost completely sold out. I have 2 left of Helium Parade. I have a bunch of the first CD left in stock. And the Wings of Mine, I'm getting really low on stock. I don't know. I think I only have a handful of those left. I did really short runs of the CDs because I wasn't sure. I don't have the money to invest, and I wasn't sure if they were going to sell or not. So I did short runs. The biggest run I did was of 4 because it's been the most popular so far.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I forget who it was I was talking to a few years ago, that he sent me a copy because he went in his garage and he found like a big case of like 500 of them, you know, and it's like he wished he never ordered that many and did, you know, shorter runs, because at least with shorter runs, you know, it's like, okay, let's say you make 100 and you sell out really quick, then you know, okay, people are interested in it, and you kind of want to stay on top of, you know, the eBay pigs that like to buy the CD cheap and then later on find that, oh, it's out of print. Now I can, you know, jack up the prices, you know, and it's like to stay on top of those people, because it's, you know, when CDs go out of print, you know, and there's still, you know, a want for them. You know, there's still an audience out there that wants it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, this band put out a limited edition. I'm going to buy a couple copies, so, and keep one for myself. And then later on, I'll make some money. And, you know,
Yeah,
it's like,
it's kind of a bummer to capitalize on it.
yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, so it's like, I mean, you were able, you know, this person was able to buy 4 copies, and someone, you know, because there's been a couple stuff out there, you know, in recent times that I wish I had the money to buy, but it's like a couple $100. I don't have a couple $100 to just drop on something, or even 100, you know.
Yeah. I know there was a John Abercrombie album called Arcade that I was looking for years on CD, and it was out of print. I could never understand why ECM didn't reissue it, because it's such an excellent album. But I ended up finding a Japanese copy, brand new, manufactured in Japan, but it was like, I think $35 for the CD, but I sprung for it.
Yeah, you know, that's, I mean, it's expensive, but it's decent. You know, it's not like too outlandish of a cost, you know, but then when CDs get into over the $50 range, then you kind of, especially if it's only for a single CD, you know. Years ago, I sold some things on eBay, and one thing, I had an extra copy of the first Angler Guard, and I was like going, okay, I have it 2 copies. You know, I bought it by mistake for twice, so it's like I had the second copy. So I just put it up on eBay at 99 cents, and that thing finished off at $80.
Wow, no kidding. So you did an
I'm
auction?
like, oh, yeah, I did it as an auction. I mean, I put it up 99 cents. You know, I thought maybe I was gonna get $5 out of it.
Wow, that's shocking.
Yeah, and the running stretch, all of a sudden I'm watching the thing go up and up and up and up. And I'm like going, damn, okay.
So it was brand new, sealed?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, so it's like, I was like, okay, so I bought some more stuff from the profits of that, you know. It's like, you can't, I mean, I think it would have been, I would have been in that category of being the eBay pig if I put it up at $80, you know.
Hey, it was voluntary.
Yeah, I was like, okay, you know, I kind of wish more of my stuff did that, but, you know, never got to that, you know, height of money for a CD. I never ever. So I mean, some of the times
I ran into the same thing. I had a huge vinyl collection. I used to, back in the 90s, I would go to thrift stores and buy vinyl. And there was a certain thrift store I went to that always had a good selection of vinyl. And they wrote on the cover in grease pen, 99 cents. That was their standard price for, and some of these albums were in pristine condition, like brand new. So I did that over 2 decades. I was collecting albums. I got up to like 1,200 of them. And then, you know, I started, like you said, I was running out of room. So I decided to sell them off. And I was amazed. You know, I rubbed the 99 cents off the grease pen, and people were paying, you know, $10, $15 for them
Right.
because of the new interest, you know, the recent interest in vinyl.
Oh yeah. You know, it's amazing, but you know, I think if you put it at a low price, I mean, there's been a couple times where I put 99 cents and I've gotten maybe $2 out of it, and you know, it's like it cost me almost as much to ship the thing. You know, it's like, so I after like about a year of doing that, just kind of I just figured, okay, you know, I got a record store nearby me. You know, I may not get the same amount of money, but I don't have to ship it. You know, I don't have to put it in that little bubble pack or anything. So I was like, all right, I just take the stack over, and you know, whatever, you know, I'll probably get pennies on the dollar for it, but at least, you know, I won't have the headache of, you know, mailing them out.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll donate to thrift stores too, that go to good causes.
Oh yeah. So, well,
Well,
you know, I just want to first of all say thank you for sending me this.
you're
I
welcome. Thank you
appreciate it,
for listening.
and I've been I'll like I told you on Messenger, I've been listening to this the most, but I do listen to the other ones. I think I need to get the number of listens for the others, you know, more into the double digits like this one is, you know, so it's like I can have a better, yeah, I can grasp the music better, you know, and I appreciate it, you know, and I also appreciate you and Kevin coming on, you know, to
Yeah,
talk
thanks
about
for
it.
having us. I don't even remember how we hooked this up, really. It's been a while since we first instigated. I don't remember if you contacted me or I contacted you.
I contacted you based on Kevin that's in the chat room.
Yeah, and I do want, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that because I do want to say thanks to a few people. Progrock.com is a great organization with wonderful people there that have been a huge help to Temple of Switches and my music. And Kevin Feely has been wonderful. Nikki Kelly has been great. Ron Marquis from Friday Night Progressive has been a huge supporter of Temple of Switches. In fact, the Unfurling, the 10-minute song that's on that CD, was written for one of his shows that he did. He contacted me. I guess it was in 2020 in the summer, I believe. No, it was the summer of 2021, and he said that he wanted to contract with 4 composers to write pieces for a story he was doing on one of his shows, and he wanted 4 musical pieces to end each chapter of his story. And I happened to get first pick, so I picked to compose a song for the end of the first chapter, and that song ended up being The Unfurling. So he really instigated that whole song, and it ended up being one of my favorite songs because it was written really quickly and it came out really nice, and it had a lot of the jazz influence that I like, and it was under a lot of pressure, so it kind of drove me a little harder than it did with some of the other songs. But and Diane Potter too, she's been great. She's been a huge influence and supporter of at least the online presence. So I did want to thank them.
Yeah, so, you know, and I thank you, you know, for making music. You know, it's like the bands and musicians out there have been even more important during these times than ever, I think, because, you know, we need to have that little escape from, not to be cliche, but the escape from the madness that's out
Yeah,
there.
it's definitely true. I'm grateful that if anybody listens, so I'm going to do it anyway, even if nobody listens. I don't do it to garner listeners. I do it because I love doing it, and I'm just driven. I don't know what, it's funny, you know, it's kind of strange what drives you to do things like this. I would be doing it even if nobody listened, but I sure do appreciate when people do listen.
Oh yeah, you know, and then that gives you a sense of, okay, you know, if you were on the fence of whether or not to continue, and if people are listening and praise your music, then you go, oh, okay, yeah, then I'm going to continue because these people like it, you know. At least I know that there's a handful or more people that are enjoying my music. That normally, you know, that's the wonderful thing about the internet is you get to touch people from all over the world, you know, with your music,
Yeah,
you know.
it's amazing, it really is. Yeah, it's made the world a heck of a lot smaller. And the sort of music that I'm writing too seems to go over better with people in other parts of the world in general than the United States. So yeah, definitely grateful for the web and the communication in that respect.
Well, I look forward to those videos, and then what's what comes beyond that from you guys.
Yeah, well, thanks. Definitely keep you posted.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining me, Tank. I do appreciate it. You know, and you know, these hot days that we've been getting. You know, got to stay cool. So I guess hopefully you're in a good AC building.
It's comfortable here today. Kevin lives about 20 miles away from me, and he said it was 69 where he's at.
Oh wow. Jeez.
So I think it's 75 here, but dry 75. It's really comfortable. Not bad at all.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good temperature. That's a good
Yeah.
temperature.
Yeah. Central coast of California. It's a nice place to live.
Yeah, I was down in the southern part, and 42 years of that was enough.
Oh, it's so crowded down there. I try not to go down there.
Yeah,
I'm in a rural area, so it's nice and quiet. Traffic's not too bad. I'm grateful for that.
oh yeah.
All right,
All
Ron.
right. All right. Well, thanks again, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
All right.
Have a
You
great
take it
rest of
easy.
your day.
You too.